Welcome to the latest interview in a special series highlighting the Informs communities, which are comprised of special interest sections, societies, forums, and chapters representing Informs members from across the globe. I'm excited for this interview, not only because we'll be featuring another Informs chapter, but I'll be talking to Norm Reitter, who I've worked with before while wearing another of my Informs hats, that of host of the Resoundingly Human podcast. Not only is Norm the Chief Operating Officer of CANA, but he also serves as the VP and Treasurer of the Informs Rocky Mountain chapter, which includes members based in Colorado, the site of the upcoming Informs Business Analytics Conference. So Norm, you've previously been interviewed for not one, but two podcast episodes, so it's great to speak with you again.
Hi, Ashley. It's great to speak with you too. And thank you so much for inviting me back for another interview. And really looking forward to talking more about Rocky Mountain Informs chapter and all the cool stuff we're doing.
Of course. So I'd love to start by having you give a little background on your relationship with Informs. When and why did you first become a member?
Well, great. Yeah, absolutely. I've really got a lot out of my relationship with Informs, so I'm really happy to talk about it. I started as a student member back in 1999 when I was attending the Naval Postgraduate School for my master's degree in operations research. And so one of the faculty members there introduced me to Informs, and the student membership was really nice to have. And that got me into Informs. And then, I first attended my first business analytics conference. And at the time, it was the predecessor. So it wasn't business analytics. I think it was like operations research practice conference. And I attended in Boston in 2004. And 2004, 2005, I forget which year it was. But that's when I really started getting back involved in Informs in my professional career. And then I'd say back in probably 2010-11 timeframe, as Informs really started looking at how to broaden into a broader analytics community. I got involved with, at the time, the president was Ann Robinson and then Terry Harrison, where I was part of their strategic committee to establish the Informs Analytic Maturity Model, and then the ACE program, which is Analytics Capability Evaluation, and we had a couple other podcasts on that. But so been very involved throughout the years as a volunteer and as a participant, and it's just been a really important part for me to really keep pace with some of the latest in technologies and the practice of analytics. And then, of course, the whole time I've been really pacing my professional network through Informs and other professional societies.
So now for your role with the Rocky Mountain chapter, how did you become involved with this Informs community?
Well, yes, great. So it's definitely part of my Informs story. I started visiting Colorado a lot around 2008. My brother has lived out here for a long time. He still does. And so I came out to visit him, but I was also working with my current company to establish new business opportunities in the Colorado Front Range area and to develop a talent pipeline. And so, I started coming out to Colorado for those things. And coincidentally, they just seemed to time with Rocky Mountain chapter Informs meetings here locally. And so I started attending those, and it was kind of a running joke where sometimes I had a higher attendance than some of the locals that were in the area. And it just became a thing for me to participate. And through that, I really got a great appreciation for the reach that Rocky Mountain Informs chapter has throughout Colorado, the Front Range especially, and all the different types of organizations that were represented, a really great mix of industry and local academia and government. So during that time, as I was participating in these Rocky Mountain chapter meetings before I moved to Colorado, I realized the reach that the chapter had throughout the entire Front Range, really from Colorado Springs up through Denver, Golden, Boulder, and into Fort Collins. And so it's just a really interesting mix of academic organizations and then the local industry. And over the past years, the industry has been booming with how they apply analytics either from a data science or an operations research area. And they're doing everything from, new techniques for data management and exploratory analysis to communications, space exploration, agriculture. So I found that there was a really great mix of participants within the chapter. And so in 2012, I moved out here. I moved to Colorado and I moved to Golden, and it was just a great way for me to continue to be plugged in to the community by being part of this chapter and continuing the relationships that I'd established before I came out here through the chapter. And it was just a great location transition for me. And then a few years ago when Dr. Alexandra Newman from the School of Mines decided to run for president of the chapter, I said, I've known Alexandra for a long time and I have a lot of respect for her and what she does. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be a vice president working with her in the chapter. And so now it's an opportunity for me to also work and give back to the community as I work with her. And it's just been a great experience.
So Norm, I'd love to hear some of the activities the chapter holds throughout the year. And are you all pretty well back to normal post-pandemic?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So we hold meetings monthly throughout the academic year, academic related to local universities. That way we're able to get a lot of great participation from local academics and students, and we bring in industry and government. And so we've been holding our monthly meetings, and we've been able to hold those throughout the pandemic, and we've done a fantastic job, I feel, of hosting those meetings online. And now it enables us to have a combination of in-person and online and kind of like hybrid events. So if someone's in the chapter and they can't make it up, for example, to Golden, Colorado from Colorado Springs, they can just plug in, to Zoom. Certainly we love the face-to-face interaction. And so we try to encourage to be in person, but if they can't, we can do that as well. So we hold monthly meetings. In fact, we have our next meeting tomorrow at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado. And anybody, I guess this will be published later, but so if you're in the local area, we have these monthly meetings, and you're welcome to join us. We'd love for you to come in and join. That's how I started joining the chapter. And Alexandra Newman does a fantastic job of hosting these meetings, and she brings in just amazing speakers. So we've had speakers who are from our local community, and we always like to highlight locals from, technology companies, and from local academia and from our government organizations. Over the last months, we've hosted, as an example, we hosted Colonel and Dr. Michael Teeter from the U.S. Army Space Command in Huntsville, Alabama. So he was able to come out and give an in-person talk last month. Tomorrow we have Professor Corey Harper from Carnegie Mellon University, and he's going to talk about research he's doing into smarter and more sustainable transportation systems. In the past, we've had speakers from Colorado School of Mines, UC Boulder, the National Renewable Energy Lab, which is also in Boulder, looking at different types of renewable energy solutions and how analytics plays in that. And then we'd have local tech companies like Optech from Boulder, which they're always a fantastic participant in our chapter meetings. And others like from the Columbia University, South Dakota School of Mines, Southern Methodist University. And then so we really have a really good mix of local speakers and speakers from outside the community. And Alexandra Newman does a fantastic job of having a very strong operations research or data science type of theme, but you also stay applied. So how are we applying this within local technology companies, or how was a guest speaker applying operations research to their problems, like with tracking space stuff or sustainable transportation systems. So it's been a very, very healthy community, and we get a lot of exposure to some of these really current relevant topics while staying engaged within the local chapter.
From your personal perspective, what is the benefit of joining an Informs chapter? How does this help keep you connected with Informs and the larger ORMS and analytics community?
Great. So I see really strong, a lot of strength in local chapters is being really aware of what's happening in your local communities. And having active chapters like we have with the Rocky Mountain Informs chapter, we're able to help you develop your professional network, depending on wherever you are in your career, whether you're currently within an organization and you want to know what opportunities are there for you to collaborate, or if you want to develop and strengthen your own personal professional network. We provide those opportunities, and that's where the conversations we have one-on-one during these face-to-face get-togethers is really important. And just every time I go to a chapter meeting, I find two or three new things that I didn't know about that were going on locally. I think a lot of times we get very much focused on what we're doing for our work. And so bringing in the chapter brings in that element of, it's kind of a bridge between what you're doing locally in your community and what you're doing for your work or what you're studying in academia. And I think it just provides that really great bridge. So I would highly encourage any Informs member to be part of your local chapter. Seek out what is your local chapter, who's being involved. And then as you get involved, you can also take leadership positions to help shape what that chapter does. So if there's an area that you really love about the chapter and you want to reinforce, or an area that you want to start with the chapter, maybe some new thing, you get to do that through a leadership position. So being involved is really important, and the chapter allows you to do that.
So now, as I mentioned earlier, the upcoming 2023 Informs Business Analytics Conference will be held in Aurora this year. And this conference is particularly special because Aurora was where we were supposed to hold our 2020 conference. I, for one, have never been to Colorado, but have heard that it's pretty magical. What are some highlights about the area that you could share with attendees? Maybe some don't miss sites or activities for any conference downtime?
Great. The chapter is really excited that people from the Informs community is coming to Colorado. So it's a great opportunity for us. And, we love Colorado. We think it's a beautiful state. And we think that if this is your first time, or if you've been here over and over, you'll experience some of the magic. Certainly the Gaylord Hotel is a great place, a great venue for this. It is close to the airport, which is convenient. It's also close to downtown Denver, and Denver is a very metropolitan type city with a lot to offer. I'd also encourage attendees to explore the areas outside of Denver. And for example, we call it the Front Range of Colorado. And if you haven't been to Colorado, you'll realize that Colorado is part of the state is plains. And so the Gaylord will be on the Great Plains that meet up against the Rocky Mountains. And then you'll see the beautiful Rocky Mountains from there. And which means that you'll have great views, but it will also be very enticing, because then you'll be like, oh, how can I explore? And so all up and down the Front Range, which is the area where those Great Plains hit the Front Range, or to hit the mountains, is great opportunities to do things like, there's plenty and a very high concentration of craft breweries in that part of Colorado, wineries. So there's great opportunities, especially if you want to go north of Denver into the area like Golden or Boulder or Longmont. There's a lot of craft breweries along there, a lot of good information on doing craft brewery tours. And also there's a local winery. And my favorite is one called Ballast-Ferries. And it's very easy to get to from the Gaylord. It's just north of Denver. And they have a great local mom and pop type of winery where they make their wine on site, and they have great food, great Italian food. So even if you're passing through and want to stop there, there's some really good and really cool experiences there. And then, of course, I live in Leadville, Colorado, which is 2 hours west. And I'd encourage everybody, if you have a little extra time, to make the trip west on I-70, and you can get into the high mount that we call we call it the high country, or some people call it the roof of the Rockies. We get up into the 14,000 foot level. And when you get up here, you'll be anywhere from about 6,000 to 10,000 feet. And there's just really cool mountain towns up here and great opportunities for outdoor recreation. So even though it's getting to be the springtime, it's still really good season for snow in Colorado. And so our ski resorts are very, they're busy, but they're great opportunities to go skiing at the resorts. Or if you want to strap on some snowshoes or cross-country skis, there's some great opportunities to get on the trails, or those could be groomed trails or they could be backcountry. And then if you do get up here into the high country, there's plenty of these cool mountain towns that have like hot springs, live music on the weekend, great food, and so you can play outside for a bit and then come inside or go into a hot springs and just chill. So if you're able to stay for a little bit longer, I definitely encourage you to get up here into the high country. And if you have just a little bit of time, explore the Front Range and definitely plan it out. There's tourism is one of the highest industries in Colorado, so there's a lot of great information out there online, and I'm sure there'll be people local who will be there that can also help give you referrals.
Number one, I'm moving to Colorado. Number two, we definitely need to work some of this into our marketing for the conference. If I wasn't already going, I'd be signed up.
Well, I'm a big fan. I moved here after visiting many times and then staying longer and longer. I figured I should just move, and I did, and I'm so happy I did. It's a great state, and there's a lot of really interesting technology companies that are here that support a lot of local government. I mean, we have some of the highest concentration of government organizations outside of Washington, D.C. So that's saying a lot. We have a big government center just west of Denver in the Front Range. And then, of course, Colorado Springs and all the research that's going on for the land management and agriculture industry, Department of Agriculture up in Fort Collins at Colorado State is really impressive. And then, so there is a lot of great tech innovation going on here too. That is another big reason that people might want to move out. So now, not everybody can move to Colorado, and so obviously it's an easy to get in and out of the Denver airport and to a lot of direct flights from places.
Even more reason for them to take advantage of their time there when they're attending the analytics conference.
Absolutely. Great pairing. It's a great pairing.
So speaking of the analytics conference, you've obviously attended in the past. Do you have a favorite memory that you could share?
Yes. I'd go back to my first conference in Boston and just that feeling you get energized, you get goosebumps, you get excited about like the latest of what's happening within the operations research practice and in the community. And it just, for me, this conference has always been inspirational. And I feel it every time I go, all the way back to my first time in Boston. I would highly recommend anybody attend the Edelman Gala. It is a fantastic celebration of operations research. Informs puts on a great show. It's fantastic. And I always get excited about hearing about the latest in how organizations are teaming to apply operations research to do some really, really important things for the world, not just within our community. So that's always exciting and a great experience there. And then I look at, I have a lot of micro experiences at these conferences, really related to like seeing people I may not have seen or may not have seen outside of this venue, who I've worked with in the past, or who I've worked within Informs and volunteering together. And then out of that comes all these opportunities to either re-engage or even business opportunities. So those micro experiences, I really cherish them. And so I enjoy that at these conferences too. So those are some of my experiences, and everywhere from Boston to Huntington Beach to Orlando to Denver, Colorado. I mean, there's all these great venues that Informs picks for these events, and I find that it attracts some really quality professionals who you can engage with.
So if you were talking to someone who was attending the conference for the very first time, what would you recommend they do to get the most out of their conference experience?
That's a great question. And these conferences can be tough if you're if you're attending it for the first time. Tough in that they could be very overwhelming. And so my recommendation for a newcomer is attend the newcomer or the first timer orientation, so you get a lay of the land. Hey, what's going to be happening over the next couple days? And then how can I maximize my time? And that will allow them to go through the agenda, through the abstracts, and really pick those presentations that they want to go to. One of the cool things that I find about this business analytics conference is that you have longer presentation times, and so you can get more content, more rich content, and a great opportunity to follow up and have great conversations with the presenters. So I'd encourage people to plan that out. I'd attend the Edelman Gala. I'd walk through the exhibitor area because there's always great exhibitors there, and you can learn about, just by talking to the vendors or those that are representing different academic organizations, what is the latest. And so it's a great way to have those one-on-one conversations in a kind of like a controlled environment, if you will. And then talk to other attendees. Everybody goes there to learn, and there's a lot of analytics professionals that get very introverted, and it's hard for them to break out. So get out of your comfort zone and just say hi to somebody and see what happens. I mean, you can learn about them, and there's a lot of interesting participants in the Informs community there. So talk to other attendees. So those are my recommendations. Everybody gets out of the conference what they get out, and just by attending and participating, you're going to get a lot out of it. And I'm sure you'll be coming back to your next one next year.
So Norm, as always, it's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing a sneak peek inside the Informs Rocky Mountain chapter, and fingers crossed, I'll hopefully be seeing you in a few weeks in Colorado.
I hope so too, Ashley. Thanks again for the invitation. It's always great talking to you too.
And coming up, we're excited to share stories of an even wider range of Informs communities in the coming months, so stay tuned.